Please welcome Joyce Azria, founder of Avec les filles.
Good morning. First off, I want to thank Women's Wear Daily for having me today. Obviously, I don't have an amazing beauty company yet. I'm starting a fashion business. So I'm going to take you over from beauty to fashion. And I have 5 children, but they will not be in these videos. So I won't make you cry. But hopefully, just be really transparent about how I'm building a brand in today's retail environment. And it seems like I'm doing many faux pas because everybody's talking about direct to consumer, and I'm opening 155 stores. So let's start out, first of all, by saying that I feel truly blessed to be launching a brand in this time. It's an extraordinary time where retail is challenged, where direct-to-consumer brands are really winning. It's all about storytelling and authenticity. And really, how do you start a brand today? How do you start a fashion brand today when there's a ton of noise and the consumer has so many places to shop? So I'm going to go through that a little bit in my presentation. Just to give you a little bit of background about me is I started out working for my parents in BCBG Max Azria when I was 16 years old. I feel like I was born into the company. Obviously, my parents were immigrants coming here, hustling after the American dream. And as we get through the presentation, you'll realize, I think, why culture is so important to me. But I think some people I've saw in the room today who've worked for my parents at some point in their career, they truly brought their story with them every day to work. I mean, you would see, my father be flying off the handles because his cappuccino was not the right temperature, or my stepmom working till 10 p.m. You saw, assistants in the business helping them with their personal life so that they can develop their professional life. And so whatever, the perception of the brand, was after 25 years, their success, I think, was truly propelled by their intense involvement, their grit, their humility, their hard work over 25 years of business. So when I was going to step out and open my own brand in this environment, of course, I spoke to many people and kind of dreamt about it for many years. And I actually wrote a book that's not out yet that really pushed me to want to create this brand. But when I thought about positioning, I obviously put the customer first. And in a digitally native generation that is the millennial today, everybody wants a part of her, but how do you really connect with her? How does that really translate into a sale? How does it, how do you capture her and take her home and really make her vote for the brand? So, we heard a lot about truth, about authenticity, about storytelling. These are some of the major points that I'm building my brand on today. But that intense involvement with your consumer seems to be the win. So welcome to Avec les filles. Everyone is going to say this wrong for many, many years, but hopefully it'll be so successful and live such a long time that people will learn French. So Avec les filles. So the brand name was obviously very important to me and what it means. As I shared with you guys, I wrote a book actually over my career at BCBG Generation, where I was tasked in the last 6 years of my career to push that brand forward, bringing it to $400 million in sales, and really creating kind of this sister brand to BCBG that speaks to the millennial. It was an enormous task, and one of my favorite things about working at Generation was just that. It was the name. It was a signal of what we were doing. And with Avec les filles means with the girls in French, and that's really what the whole soul or transparency about this brand is. I'm living this brand with my consumer. So I'm young enough to be a millennial, but old enough to have been, sat through every planning and allocations meeting and, talked bestsellers and, exhausted about inventory and what we did right and wrong. But this kind of, even the fresh presentation of what the name is, Avec les filles, is a total statement to who this brand is. Our mission or our brand promise is to cut through the noise and provide a positive inspiration and a grounding voice to the millennial woman. So obviously it's a feel-good brand. It's based in pink. It's all of my favorites, and truly telling my story through the brand, I think, is where we will connect. The brand DNA, I call it a contemporary lifestyle, a hybrid contemporary lifestyle brand. What does that mean? It means I'm breaking all the rules. It means that my investors are either going to love me or hate me. I'm really trying to create a progressive, new thinking brand. And we'll go into it further along in the presentation, but creating that emotional bond and creating that community through our brand DNA. That's me. I'm taller there. I think we talked a little bit about transparency into corporate culture. So as funny as my days growing up in my parents' business were and really seeing that corporate culture, I think that is the root of all companies, right? It's about the founder, and it's about what you're building. And those micro-influencers can start with the people that you hire in your office. So we talk about micro-influencers today. Let's be honest, bloggers are so expensive and have created amazing businesses. And so now we say, oh, now it's the micro-influencer. Sure. The community starts with you. Community starts with you and your connection to the employees that you have, and what true culture you're implementing for your brand. I hire people, and I sit in complete excitement about who they are as an individual, how many hats they can wear, because obviously we've got to think savvy and make it work. But it's a true love and passion that the people that I'm building this brand with are the right fit to tell this story. So I think if you're connected as a team, you ultimately win. And I've seen that, a million of my friends have started businesses in this space. And you see that a lot of the ones that are connected just with their group of employees starting with that first, and then going out to these micro-influencers, and then building this community. It resonates, but it only resonates if it's true. Our audience, the millennial. So she is fascinating. I had many of them under me at Generation. After 6 weeks, they want the corner office. They're telling you that they are the best thing ever. They haven't even seen their buy come through or sat through a cycle of business. But they're fiercely independent, extremely confident, but yet can't make a decision by themselves, right? Do you think I should buy these shoes, or do you think I should buy those shoes? And everything is a constant communication. And so they are this total fascination point for me. But as the first digitally native generation, I am putting my bet, my 5 children, my house, my poor husband, putting it all on the fact that she has grown up in this digital era. And even though these direct-to-consumer brands are really killing it in terms of building, growth, exponential growth and business, I think she's coming out from behind the computer, and it's a time where she's going to truly come back and want to touch and feel the product. So it's how dynamic are we going to be as retailers to be intelligent in today's retail climate and really position our brand where we can use mini showrooms to tell our story. So old school versus new school. So these are the conversations I love. So my dad called me yesterday and told me I'm doing everything wrong. And he's like, you cannot, you don't have enough inventory. When I decided to do both and say, the beautiful thing about direct-to-consumer is the storytelling element, is you have a chance to tell her through film, through photo, through the lighting. Did you do a headless model or with head? All these big questions that we ask ourselves as, in the fashion business. Truly doesn't matter. It's all about blessing anyways. We'll go there afterwards. I'm extremely spiritual. But when you talk about this kind of old school thinking, right? It's like big inventory and overspaced, huge square footage stores. And we have to think in today's climate, how do you build a brand today? How do you weather the storm today? You obviously want to do what's happening in digital, right? And you in the e-commerce world, and you want to build these brands, but you want to kind of optimize on these experiences. And so how do you do that, kind of work both worlds? So in the new school of thinking, I think that fashion brands today have to build an authentic model that's dynamic and adaptive. And I always used to say it in my past life, in my career, and I continue to say it today, we cannot be cruise ships. Okay, so what I'm talking about is like when I ask a person like, oh, how's your company? Oh, amazing, we added 90 employees. And I'm just like, what? That's crazy. That's crazy. It's a lot of spending. And today, you look at tech startups, as an idea of like kind of how you want like these future brands to work. And you say, they're lean. But what does lean mean? Lean doesn't mean, okay, it's easy on my OpEx. Lean means it's easy to change. It's nimble. The whole entire world is changing as we know it. And so we really have to be prepped to be able to move. And even, with our team size, but also with our thinking. We can't sit, obviously we want to be responsible business owners and make and take the right decisions. But in order to challenge yourself as an entrepreneur and everybody you have sitting and working for you, let them feel like they're an entrepreneur and they can help shift and move your business, and you guys make guided, informed decisions together. So I chose a shop-and-shop approach for my launch in terms of storytelling. But I go back to being a child in Europe. I was born in Paris. And, you walk into an average store in Paris, maybe 1,000 square feet. You come to America, your cheesecake is this big, your soda's this big, and your stores are this big. But even though America is a powerful place in the size and the delivery and the kind of importance that it places by having these kind of a heavy look about the way they tell a story, really it's not cost effective, right? So you can't open a retail store today. You can't get anyone in a retail store today. So it's about leveraging each other's audiences, and as long as you're making a meaningful connection and really leveraging it properly, you see places like the Brentwood Country Mart winning. It's about this collective of brands that work together that means something to the consumer. And so I think when I think new school, those are the types of things I think about. Obviously, omni-channel, you want to be able to be nimble in your approach with inventory and moving things around rather than kind of it stagnating in your D doors. So obviously those are all kind of new school thinking, but I really spent a lot of time thinking about that when I started this brand. It's like, do you really, play the games that the traditional retail has like set forth, or do you break all the mold and you set forth in kind of a new era and a new time? So the importance of storytelling and retail in retail and e-commerce. So storytelling is something that Greg touched upon. It's extremely important, and that's really what it is. I say like. In fashion, I've always been in fashion. In fact, I tell my husband all the time, I'm like, if this doesn't work, I don't know what I'll be doing next. But in fashion, there really hasn't been a ton of excitement. And I'm talking about times where you really used to hang out with your girls and used to go shopping. Because I think it's hard today for some of these brands that have started, whether it was the celebrity trend, it's like slap a celebrity on this, give her 5%, there you go, you got a business. Today it's just like she's not into it. She's like, I've got money, I can spend it anywhere I want. I could go buy Who What Wear for Target, or I can go to buy Chanel at Tradesy and the Real. Like gone are the days where you had to walk through the doors at Chanel to get something and really have that story told to you. So in this time right now where all these rules have broken, where her reach for high-low is so easy, how do you really make noise, or how do you cut through the noise? And so I think storytelling is very important, but you've got to have a real story. So we have a director, producer on staff with our team trying to capture moments of building this brand. So obviously, we haven't launched yet. We launched February 1st. But we think it's so important to capture the moments that are happening today in our brand and give full transparency and a sort of mentorship element to back to the community. So here we go. So why we're capturing these moments, these nuances, is of course it's important to use it afterwards as digital content, and of course it's important for the transparency. But it's because there is a true story happening today. There's a true story about about a bunch of young people, one girl who quit a really successful job to come, work, one girl who's struggling with a personal issue while she's balancing, her day at work, and then all of us really working hard to create excitement in fashion and to create an exciting new brand. And that passion, I think, has to be portrayed, and it has to, move forward in order to really connect with the consumer. Another place and another opportunity to storytell are obviously our points of sales, where our customer experiences the product. And nothing must be left unturned, from size tickets to new dynamic ways of packaging. It's kind of a surprise and delight element, and I think that when you can capture the consumer and make her feel like she just landed in a place that is her, Instagram-worthy, love the color pink, feeling like a brand is telling her story, she'll buy something because of a box. But it's not so much that we're selling product, is that we are really engaging as dynamic storytellers and making sure our story is heard on all platforms. Digital. Yay, while we're all here. So yesterday, obviously I spent a ton of time here. But my underlying message with all digital, and it's our subliminal message, is we don't sell clothes. Because at the end of the day, there are so many brands that do. And, even though our business is fashion and our business is selling clothes, I told my director of e-commerce, I'm like, I want the whole site black and white. She almost fell out of her chair and left that day. But what I was saying is I want to make a bold point to this consumer. It's that I understand you. Whether this is a blue and white stripe, whether this is a gray and white stripe, whether you convert or not, whether you go buy it on another site. The truth is about standing up for yourself as a brand and really delivering a message of purity back to your consumer. And if your consumer is obsessed with, nostalgic imagery, okay, that's a huge point for the millennial. She wants to be part of those things that she missed. She wants to wear her mommy's old Bulgari watch. She wants to, remember these kind of nostalgic points when you used to fix things instead of getting a new one. And so in a time where everybody's, showing 65 images and close-ups and zoom in and zoom out, and that's this, and she gets it, and she's like, well, it doesn't look like what it looked like in the picture. And it's like, no, it actually looks identical to what it looked like in the picture, but it didn't make you feel anything and didn't change you as a consumer. And so we're going to take enormous risk when it comes to our digital strategy. I hope that you guys will all stay tuned and hopefully, add to cart. Innovative product strategies. So this is, one of my biggest drivers in this business. I challenge the fact that this business is done in buckets. Okay, you listen to senior management in fashion, and they tell you, well, that's contemporary. Oh, that's young contemporary. And this is our Missy's, and this is our fast fashion. And what it means is it's bucketing a customer in a price point. And guess what? She didn't care. She doesn't care because for some reason, this girl who doesn't have $1 above $60 to spend on a dress for her graduation is wearing an All Saints leather jacket. And you're just like, what just happened? Where did this girl buy it? How did she get it? And that is that true connection with the consumer, and it's about breaking that story. It's not true. I would go in my former years at Generation, and I would stand on the pad in the middle of Macy's, and I would look around and see my consumer in a real leather jacket with a mink-off bag who wants a coupon on a coupon on a coupon to buy a dress, and I'm like, what is going on here? And it's because her threshold around pricing and the price-value equation has completely been shattered. And so these brands that are maybe celebrity authenticated, they are so confused. They're like, wait, we used to do business under 150, and we only do PU. It's like, no way. Because while she's there and the audience is limited and you've got her for a minute, you have to leverage every part of the way she shops and understand her as a dynamic storyteller. Because that's what the millennial is today. She is making these informed product choices because they somehow are a part of her identity. And so she's internalizing the purchase, and in turn, she's a brand, okay? And so I say on the assortment, I'm like, I want a $38 woven top, but I also want a $595 Italian leather jacket. I want a made-in-capsule French, made-in-France jacket for $298, but I need that dress under $68. I need a real leather shoe, but I also want an opening price point shoe. So it's like, how are you going to be this brand? So when I was starting to tell this story, I have everyone like, from the Nordstroms to the Macy's. It's like, how are you going to tell this story? We only want this brand in this shop, and we only want to do this brand if you're not doing that. And it's like, you know what? Hey, when Michael Kors is on fire or Free People's on fire, you all have them. So how come? So what's the story? I don't get it. So why them and not me? And it's about diversifying your assortment and speaking to the multiple faces of who she is. And in turn, you speak to a larger audience. And if you look, when 6 years ago, I had left my parents' business, I went into retail, real estate. I needed a total, 180. My dad came back and he's like, oh, and it's BCBG generation, and it's so amazing. And I looked at the opportunity and I was like, how amazing is this brand that they were building that can reach so high with the BCBG name that I could do an off-price business, that can speak to the generation, but also remind her of, her prom dress, or make these meaningful moments for her, but be dynamic as a brand. Who put us in a box? We put ourselves in a box. Oh, we're starting a new brand. It's a celebrity brand. It's a 5% licensing deal. We're bringing it to Macy's. We're bringing it to Dillard's. It was so like it's intelligent. We've survived. We've all made it to here, right? We've got some amazing fashion storytellers, and we've pushed these brands to be, hundreds of millions of dollars. But it's not the future. It's not the future, and you can tell by the slowdown in sales. You can tell by these big brands saying, hey, we're not doing the markdown game anymore. You can tell because people are sick of it, because even themselves as entrepreneurs feel like they've maybe deceived the customer. So a full lifestyle brand. So again, here's another place where I'm taking risk, just to be fully exposed, is, traditionally in apparel, we play the wholesale game. We start out, we go to market with our, 45 SKUs, and we start out, and then, it ticks, okay, great, we're going to go out and get a shoe license, we're going to go out and make a bag deal. I was like, nope, I want it all. I want to open with it all. So, like my mom says, Joyce doesn't know how to make a small pot of soup. It's like, no, I'm sorry, I have 5 kids, I'm making dinner for 40 all the time. So that's what I wanted with this brand at launch. Because I wanted to be able to storytell, but also have the product to live up to the message that I'm giving her. And guess what? I make $30 tops and $200 shoes. So we'll see if I win or not. But I truly believe that it was a very important element to really tell her a true full story around all categories at launch. The power of lifestyle. So spring 2017, the world becomes a little bit more pink. So I want to leave you with kind of a last thought. It's something I tell my children, but I think for a digital forum, I think it's a very appropriate thing. Is I always tell my children, and I tell my friends the same thing. It's when you're being truthful to yourself, you survive in the world. And the world is a crazy place. We all want meaningful connections, and we want a life that brings about joy, peace, and true connections with people we love. And we can only do that when we're being truthful to ourselves. And so the question that you ask yourself when you're building a brand, when you've had a brand for 25 years, wherever you are in your story as an entrepreneur is, am I really being truthful to what I started here? Did I sell out? Was this an amazing brand when I took it to $80 million, but then my investors and shareholders and blah, 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 and started to listen to too much noise, and then, boop, deep dive, chapter 11. And so I think in business, I always use business and personal life in parallel. But I think it's important in your business life to ask yourself, am I still being true to my brand? Way down the line or right at the beginning steps. Thank you so much. Hi, Ashley.
I'm Stanley. I worked with your father for 5 years.
I know you.
And Congratulations on your new endeavor.
Thank you.
And I wondered if you... I know.
That's how I feel every day.
I'm working for a startup brand now, too. It's called Lovesick. And it's for curvy girls who are sizes 10 to 26.
Is the founder a 10 or 26? Is the founder?
Yes. We're part of part of Torrid.
Okay.
Which is also a plus-size brand.
Sure.
And we launched last April. My question is, if you can share with us, how are you going to launch? Are you going to do it in a traditional manner with a party and a lot of hoopla, PR, that kind of thing, or are you going to do it digitally in a different kind of way?
So as I shared with you, and I think the news comes out in 2 weeks, we're opening 155 retail stores in a big box retailer. So for me, I look at a lot of successes in the marketplaces, the Everlanes, the Bonobos, those kinds of direct-to-consumers. And I think those are the most meaningful because they have transparent pricing to the consumer. And that's really what she wants at the end of the day, is that kind of connection with value in the product that she's buying. Because at the end of the day, she's buying clothes, right? So while the hoopla and the PR is really important, I think providing a truthful experience to her once she passes that PR threshold is super important. So we have 155 shops opening at the same time, and I think that when these storytellers tell these amazing kind of digital stories, and then they launch 2 years later their first brick-and-mortar store, everyone is so disappointed. And it happens every single time. And it's timing, surely, but it's also because they're making it more of a statement of an accomplishment rather than really starting to think about it at the beginning of the brand when they have so much passion and excitement about building that digital face, that they should be building that, experience face at the same time. So even though, I am going to do a whole cross-country thing and there will be PR and I have a pink piano in my biggest store, all those fun things, it is extremely important that the message feel authentic to the consumer. And what Chris was saying, what Greg was saying, it's so true. Liz Rodbell invited me to open their footwear floor 2 years ago. They had just redone their footwear store in New York and invited me with a ton of other designers. And I sat there and talked to women about why they chose to get gastric bypass and why, what silhouette will look good on their body and why I designed this shoe and why I'm in the business and a story about my dad. And it's about truth, and truth sells. And truth is enormous, and truth is swelling, and it's bottoms up. It's what he was talking about, because it's truth, right? And you can't buy truth. You can't license truth. It's just got to be there, right? And so you can see, I think a good example is a Lauren Conrad, for example, who's still at Kohl's. It's how did she weather the storm and she's still at Kohl's? Is because at the end of the day, when she got off that show, she actually got inspired by design. And she truthfully positioned herself in design. And you can see it way up to way down. I also, just to head back and I truly think that you can do 1,000 things right in business and you don't have a successful business. And you can do 1,000 things wrong and have a truthfully successful business. And it's really about blessing, It's just being in the right place at the right time. But I find this time to be truly blessed to be launching a brand. So I think as long as you are telling an authentic story and you're leveraging a place where she can touch and feel, I think people are tired of not being able to see the product. And, even though you sit in your robe, with rosé and you're shopping online, sounds great. But at the end of the day, you want to try it on. You want to make sure it fits. Then you have to go ship it back. There is still such a desire to want to experience retail. But I think retailers were letting down the consumer, and we are also, not surprising her, So there's so much opportunity everywhere. But yeah, so we will have the traditional, but I think that's what I'm the most proud of. It's taking some of that old school knowledge and knowing that we have to do this for conversion. We know all the things we know, but really taking huge risks on what we don't know,
I was just wondering, is this a brand under BCBG or is it a completely separate brand?
It's not, and actually this was free advertisement for them today. No, it's not. My parents did a good job of teaching a girl how to fish, type of thing. So then I went fishing on my own. But you know, of course, being part of the Azria family, everybody has consulted. Everybody in my family, from my 6 siblings to my parents to aunts and uncles calling from France, have expressed their extreme interest, passion, and concern about the business I'm building. So it's always a family affair in my family. Yeah, but this is completely separate.